Uncle Ron and stuff inside or partially inside a BMW Z3 Smog Pump. This is for a 1997 Z3, but they're all similar in design. And problem I had was the motor was beginning to squeak. And also when it powered down, you could hear it was up sinking some resistance, so it needed to be replaced. And I thought, well, it's probably just the motor. It needs to either be oiled or perhaps a set of brushes. I looked around, I didn't see anything about repairing. I found one YouTube video that showed them taking the motor out of a smog pump and cleaning the motor up and getting it going again. So I'm curious. I take things apart to see how they're assembled and so on. So with the smog pump making noise like that and an inspection coming up, I had to replace it. And these are kind of expensive items. Just as a background on smog pumps, um, the um, the uh, the emissions is part of the emissions, and the deal is that when a car is cold, uh, below a certain temperature overall, hasn't been run in a while. When you start it up, the oxygen sensors that are in the exhaust before and after the catalytic converter, potentially on each side of the, like an 8 cylinder would have two sets of those banks, one for bank four cylinders and one for the other. And there's a heater in the oxygen sensor and heats it up. The oxygen sensors don't really work very well until they get hot enough. So there's a heater in the sensors to try to bring it up to speed. And in the meantime, to reduce the amount of pollution coming out of the car during this warm up period until the oxygen sensors are operating properly and it's thinning or enriching the fuel mixture as the computer says it should to optimize or minimize the emissions, they pump air into the exhaust stream. And that's what a smog pump does. Now, here is the smog pump off of a 1997 BMW Z3. I have already removed some parts, but it looks like this, and there is one more piece that will make it look more familiar to you, and that is the electrical socket at the bottom. This is an electrically driven pump. Early smog pumps were driven off of a serpentine belt or a fan belt off of the crankshaft. That's not the case here. This is electrically driven. The computer basically, if it's senses the O2 sensors are not up to snuff yet, then it turns on those heaters. Also turns on the smog pump. So there's really no voltage to this thing except during startups when it's needed. Okay, so what I wanted to do was to get inside and see what was going on with the motor. And you can see down in here, let me see if I can get some more light on it. There you go. There is the motor down in here. I removed a piece here. You can see it a little better. There's the motor. And up here at the top, I took this cover off. Um, and you can expose the fan here. And I have them loosened. This particular piece is loose enough, but the motor itself, the shaft comes up and is obviously the fan is pressed onto that shaft. So this is as far as I can get. I have not tried to cut the fan off yet, but once I do, the bottom line is it's not repairable, which is a drag. Now, it's heavily made, it's well made. For example, there's metal underneath of this top that fits on here. And there's another piece that fits on top that's just the air, it's an air filter. There's a filter in there. Surprised they don't sell those things, but nonetheless, um, uh, you can't, I don't know what country that was or what model they had, but I cannot get this motor to come out without doing something up at the top on this. This is where the shaft comes out and this fan uh, sits on it, and I can rotate it. Well, the fan will rotate in the housing. It's still attached to the uh, to the motor, and like I say, it's well made. There was silicon down in various grooves. I think there was silicon up here at the top as well. It's interesting how this constructed. You see those tabs on there, and they fit down over places on the lower casing. And there were rivets went down through here to keep everything all together. And I just cut the tops off of those with electric drill, and I could take the rivets out. And that got me to this point. But I have no way now to, take the fan off. Okay, smog pump. I don't know what else to tell you except it gets it obviously has brushes because there's so much grook. Every time I touch the thing, I get immediately dirty. Um, I have now replaced this with a new smog pump, and it's working fine. Uh, this thing is obviously super built, and it's in a very harsh environment. It's underneath the hood. The temperatures are crazy. You get moisture in there and so on. So I guess I understand why they seal, why the motor is in there and tapped on top here and not to be repaired. Um, but I hate this sort of design. I mean, I understand it's a pretty rough environment. And rather than have it replaced where you could pull it out, I had a friend that had an old a Mercedes Benz, 1960s or 50 models. Everything on there could be replaced. I'm sure he could have gotten to this motor. Everything was designed so you could take it apart and replace it. Smog motor. These are on this car, which is a 2.8. It uses a different smog motor than for the 1.9 liter. This one is more expensive. I don't. When I looked at them physically, they're slightly different. Um, the output of this right here goes right into a check valve that goes right into the exhaust stream. And again, just they're getting ready to release um, wastewater, radioactive wastewater from the Japanese reactors, which melted down a number of years ago. They've been storing it in tanks. They're going to dilute it. They've taken some of the stuff out, and they're going to release it in the ocean. This is sort of the same thing. They're pumping air into the exhaust to thin out the exhaust. Um, I don't think it obviously puts oxygen into the output stream. So maybe the O2 sensors, even in their bad state, can sense it and do some adjustment to the lean or rich amount of firing, the fuel injection that goes on. I tried. This is what it looks like. I don't think I'm going any farther with it. There is looks like a band, a compression ring here at the top. I could try cutting that out, but I don't think I'm going any farther. The motor is completely loose. I think I explained to you that there is this that sits down in here, And mechanical design, there is a groove in the case where, and there is a groove on this ring. I have to find it right there. And it sets in that groove, and this can be removed, but I don't know. You don't you don't really gain anything. Rotate it around to find the groove, and it'll go in. Uh, there's a groove. Oh, right there. And where is the? Here. Okay. See how it will go in, and if I push farther, it just snaps in there. Um, and then around this, there was this placed down around the motor. It's a rubbery piece, and there was another piece, and there was a spring. All of it to keep the motor from moving around in there. Um, the This thing at the bottom, it's just motor stabilization, um, and it didn't move. It was solid in there, but I can't do anything with it. And if I got the motor out, I'm sure I'd find a number on it, and I probably maybe could order brushes. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's brushes. I don't see any circuit board or anything like that. It's only two wires. Implies that it's brushes in there, and brushes in there are usually made out of graphite or something like that, and they rub against the rotor to. That's what allows DC motors to work. They either have brushes or they have a little circuit board which causes the field to change and rotate the motor. Okay, that's enough of this one. This one is trash. Not repairable. Not for me anyway. But I took it apart to see how it was constructed. And again, heavy duty, meant for harsh environments, expensive to replace, still available. This one was 26 years old, had not been a problem, was still running, making a lot of motor squealy noises, and it was related to the motor. Enough for today. Uncle Ron and stuff. This is Smog Pump out of a BMW 1977 Z3 2.8 liter, and today is the 5th of July 2023.